Alright, so we checked the forecast this week, and the long range is looking like next week's going to be cold. So hopefully that'll get this ground tightened up enough that maybe next weekend I can get in here at the tractor and get everything done that I need to do in here before spring, before the ground thaws. I mean, we got a while till then, we got a couple months yet, but trying to get a little bit prepared and ready ahead of time so we don't get kind of more or less caught at the last minute trying to get all this stuff done and scrambling. I booked a week's holidays from work so that way one week in May I'm going to get the equipment that I don't have that I need to rent, chipper, maybe an excavator. I may know a guy who has an excavator that I could get, but we're going to try and get that lined up for that week. So I want to have everything that I'm going to do with the excavator or with the chipper done and ready to go, so that way when the time comes it's not a big scramble to try and get everything ready. It's ready. I can just drive straight through with the tractor and the chipper and chip everything, and then we're done. And we're also going to try and gravel the driveway this year too, so it'll be a busy week. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through, we're just going to mark some of these trees with orange marker tape. You can use any color you want. It comes in multitudes of colors, but we're going to use orange because it's easy to see. So this weekend, where it's kind of everything's soft and I can't really get out here with any machinery, ideally this would be a good weekend to do all the cutting, but I'm on call, so technically I have to be ready to go at a moment's notice. I may try and get out here and do some cutting if I can keep my phone on me, so that way I can not miss any calls for work, but should be okay. So I'm on call this week, so I can't really do a whole lot except hang around and tinker with little small stuff like this. So we're gonna go through and we're gonna mark a bunch of stuff that needs to get cut, and maybe start cutting, and maybe some evenings this week, maybe come out and lay a tree down or so, but try and get as much of it marked out today, and then next weekend I'm going to spend one day next weekend just cutting, getting everything on the ground, and then go from there. And then the next day I'll probably just spend the day yarding everything out with the tractor. I'm probably going to do most of this with the tractor in here, unless we get over there, then I may do that with the donkey, but for the most part this is all going to be tractor work in here. Everything's pretty big, so we're going to mark some trees and then go from there. Alright, so as you can see, we got a few trees marked all around. Those are all ones that are for sure going to come down to open this little field up. So now what we're going to do is, a lot of these trees along the edge, their limbs hang down quite low, and it shades like a good 6 to 8 feet of the field, so it doesn't get the sunlight that it needs and requires to grow anything. So what we're going to do is, we got a pruning saw on a pole saw, and what we're going to do is we're going to go around and we're just going to lift the canopy up here on this field on some of these trees, and in the process of doing that we'll also look and see if there's other things that need to come down or anything else that needs to be cut out. Anything that we see that's leaning obviously is an obvious has to go, but the stuff that we marked is stuff that's kind of, could stay, but it should go. Alright, so we went along, as you can see back here. See, there we go. Back here, I had to get my finger calibrated. And we just brought up the canopy along the edge of the field. You can see up through there a lot better now, which is kind of neat. So with lifting that canopy, it'll allow some sunlight to get to the ground up there. And then, so I've been thinking about it, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this yet. I know it's going to be like a food plot area to grow grass for the horses and stuff that we can cut and put right into them, or we can dry it and put it in the loft. But being as wet as it is, this may not be a feasible spot to dry, but we can cut green feed here, which is just as good. So I may get an excavator in here in the spring and grub this down and shape this up and try and get it leveled and so on. Or I've been thinking about getting pigs, but I don't know where I'm going to run them yet. And I feel like I should probably run them close so I can keep an eye on them. But this might be actually a really good spot for them. They could, after I chip all this, I just blow the chips out into the field, and then they can come through here and till this, and these wet spots would make perfect little mud wallows for them. The only thing about being in here is water supply for them to drink. Now, I mean, I could build something here that they can't make mud in and they can just drink out of that, but that's a little bit tougher of a job with pigs because they're kind of destructive. But this could be a pretty good spot to run a couple of pigs. I have to do the math on that and think about it, but that might be something to do here. Maybe a good use of this ground. So I tried to time lapse the pruning of the edges of the field, but I'm videotaping with my phone, so it fell over, and I think we just got a time lapse of the ground. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to go along. There's our number one employee, hardest working employee on the farm. So what we're going to do is we're going to go along now. We're going to gather up all this brush and everything out of the bottom, like that we trimmed off, and then we'll try and get it all stacked in the edges of the field in piles, so that way we can get the chipper in here and chip it all. And then that way, if it is in the edges and not out in the middle of the field, if I don't get to it this year, it's not the end of the world. I can just leave it and we'll get it next year or whatever. I'm almost tempted to buy a chipper if I could find one for a reasonable price, but they're expensive. So we just rent one a couple times a year, and then I don't have to worry about the upkeep of it, but I think I would use it enough. So yeah, so we're going to clean up all of this brush and everything and get it all put in piles, and then when we start knocking down these trees that we've got marked, we'll do the same. We'll just put all the brush into piles and then we'll haul the logs out. And in here, I'm not so much worried about taking them out that way with all the brush and limbs and everything on them. I'll just leave the brush right here, and I can get to here with the chipper. Should be able to, if all goes well. I'd like to try and fill in some of that road with rock, just so it's easier to get in here until we decide where we're going to put the pond, if it's going to be there or just a little bit lower. We may not even do the pond. That's just a pipe dream. It'd be nice though. We'll see what happens. Okay, so we got all of our brush piled up along the edges of the field. I don't know that it makes much sense to get into cutting anything today. The wind's kind of picked up here a little bit, and that's not real favorable for cutting because it can blow the tree the wrong way, opposite to what I want it to drop. So I think we're just going to hold off on that, and we'll worry about that next weekend. But there's a bunch of stuff along the edge of the road here I want to get cleaned up and put it all into piles and make it easier for chipping. And there's a bunch more stuff back that way that needs to get done too, and out by the house. There's always lots to do. And we're trying to do a lot this year, so it's going to be a busy year. I'm looking forward to it. But for right now, that's probably all we're going to get done today. All we'll be able to video. Nothing else really all that interesting. So we're just going to pile up some brush and some stuff that's laying underneath here. Piles. As you see, there's just scads of stuff laying. I gotta try and get that stuff cleaned up and ready to chip. As much of it as I can anyway. Some of it we're going to use for backfill for, there's a big hole out front. I may try and get some of it taken out there and dumped down over in the hole, but we'll see. I want to use some of this stuff for hugelkultur beds come spring, and actually we may go start looking into getting some of that material ready, because that's going to be a future video, building bed boxes and how you can do them on the cheap. My dad and I are quite fortunate when we get the odd time we'll get a bunch of big crates from work. We get big airplane parts in them, or He works for a pulp mill, so there's a lot of stuff comes in large crates for both of us. So a lot of times we can get our hands on old wooden crates, and he happened to get his hands on a bunch of big stuff. So there's a bunch of 2x6s and some 1-inch boards and some other small stuff that we're going to use to build bed boxes and stuff with, and instead of milling out lumber, which we have the capability to do, mind you. But this stuff's free, otherwise it's just going to go to the dump, and it's all good lumber. There's nothing wrong with it. It's great stuff. So we're going to show you, and even you guys, if you guys know of like construction sites around, or if there's somebody building a house in your neighborhood, or if you live near an industrial area or work near an industrial area, if you can get your hands on some crates, pallets are okay. They're a little bit harder to work with because they're more made of hardwood, and they're pretty fragile, pretty brittle. But if you can get your hands on some decent lumber, it doesn't have to be brand new stuff. Like old crates, you can build a lot out of old crates and stuff. And we're going to do some how-to videos on what you can do to build crates and where you can get the material. Like I say, construction sites, those guys, there's a lot of stuff that they throw away. There's just no good, no use, and they don't have a need for, and they have to pay to have that stuff hauled away. So you can get it for free. They'll let you take it. 9 times out of 10, they'll let you take it. Just stop and ask and be like, hey, what are you doing with blah, blah, blah? Cool if I take that. Most of them will gladly let you take it. It's less work for them. They don't have to clean it up. They don't have to pay to get rid of it. A lot of them are happy to give it to you, and you can build a lot of really cool stuff out of it. Even like big box stores, some of the stuff that comes in tractor trailers and stuff is they build shelving units inside the trailers to stack things in and load stuff into. Just check with them. A lot of times there's stuff there you can get to. The whole back section of my barn, all the 2x4s are old framing that was inside of a tractor trailer from a Canadian Tire that had a bunch of stuff shipped in and out, and they needed wooden racks in the trailer to stack everything on. So once they were all done, they took all the 2x4s out, and they were just going to throw them away. We got them for free, and I built a 20 by 38 barn out of old 2x4s that were just going to be thrown away. So keep your eyes peeled for that stuff. Be ingenuitive, be resourceful, and stay tuned. Future video, I'm hoping to do that in the next couple of days, maybe next weekend or the weekend after. We're just going to tinker at it, and once I get all the material and everything ready to roll, then we'll do a video. I'll keep you guys posted on it, and you can tune in and see just how easy it is to build a bed box. It's not rocket science. Stay tuned.